Hello, everybody. My name is Rizzo the Rat.
And my name is Charles Dickens.
Wait, hold on. Your name is not Charles Dickens. It's Gonzo.
Excuse me? It's Charles Dickens to you, if you don't mind.
Charles Dickens was a great writer. You're not a great writer.
I certainly am.
I'm not.
Am too.
I'm not.
Am too.
Okay, then prove it.
No problem. I'll tell you one of my greatest stories. A Christmas Carol.
All right, Mr. Dickens, you're on.
Okay, here we go.
Oh, wait a second. Hold on a minute. Can I go get some popcorn?
No, Rizzo, you can't go get some popcorn. This is not a movie, you know. I'm starting the story now. A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens. There was hardly a man in London as unpleasant as Ebenezer Scrooge. He was heartless. He was cruel. He had time for neither friends nor fun. Ebenezer Scrooge, in short, was a squeezing, wrenching, grasping, clutching, covetous old sinner.
Yeah, but was he nice?
Rizzo, quit interrupting. That's rude.
Hey, rudeness is my middle name.
Ebenezer Scrooge was in the business of lending people money. If they could not pay him back the money, he took away their houses as payment. He was the meanest man in London.
Wow.
Scrooge was at his meanest at Christmas time, for it was then that many people could not pay him, and so he took away a great number of houses. The spirit of the holiday meant less than nothing to him. Not a word of cheer ever passed his lips. When any person wished him a happy holiday, this is what he said.
Humbug.
You're right. Mean.
If Scrooge was the meanest man in London, however, it happened that he had in his employ one of the nicest. This was Bob Cratchit. Cratchit was a good-natured fellow and a hard worker. But no matter how hard he worked, no matter how many hours he spent toiling over papers into the night, it was never enough for Scrooge.
Of course not. Not that guy.
Scrooge was a harsh master to all those who worked for him. If they asked for a bit more coal on the fire to keep from freezing, Scrooge said no. And if they dared ask for the day off at Christmas, Scrooge would threaten to fire them all. Even a poor little fellow singing a Christmas song outside in the snow.
Oh, the snow lay round about, deep at crisp and even, brightly shone the moon that night, though.
Got Scrooge's door slammed in his face.
Mean to a bunny? For shame.
Finally, Bob Cratchit convinced Scrooge that it would save him money to close on Christmas Day. And so, at closing time on Christmas Eve, the ledger books were put away, the floor was swept, and the office door was securely locked at last. His heart full of joy and anticipation, Bob Cratchit hurried home to be with his beloved wife and children for the holiday. And Scrooge left his office and trudged home, just as he did every night. There would be no celebrating for him this evening. And yet, though Scrooge did not know it, this particular Christmas Eve was going to be different. Very different indeed.
Well, how come? What's going to happen?
Rizzo, will you be quiet? I'll tell you.
When?
Will you cut it out?
All right.
Sheesh. Now, Ebenezer Scrooge had once been in business with two partners, Jacob and Robert Marley, cranky old fellows who were just as mean-spirited as Scrooge himself. The Marleys were dead now, as dead as a doornail. But Scrooge still lived in a house which had belonged to Jacob Marley. The house was a dismal heap on a dark street. Tonight, as Scrooge climbed the dark steps to his front door, a very strange thing happened. Suddenly, the big front door knocker turned into an awful twisted face, the face of Jacob Marley, and then it called out in an awful voice.
Wow, you sure know how to tell a scary story, Mr. Dickens.
Well, thank you. Anyway, the door knocker called out to him.
Ooh, hey, let me try that. Scrooge.
Nah.
That's not right. Yeah, how do you get that sound? You know, how come you can make that happen?
Because I'm Charles Dickens and you're only Rizzo the Rat. That's how come.
You are not Charles Dickens.
I am too.
You are not.
Look, Rizzo, can I keep going, please?
Sure. Hey, you want to order out for pizza?
No. Brother. Even Scrooge, who was usually unscarable, had been given quite a scare. But But soon the knocker returned to its normal form, and Scrooge decided that the whole thing had never happened. He went inside the house, lit a small candle, and made his way up the staircase, caring not a button for the darkness. Darkness was cheap, and Scrooge liked it. At last, he settled down beside the fire with his simple, lonely supper of cheese and bread. But no sooner had he taken a bite than a sound rang through the house. Then there were more bells, and more and more.
Enough with the bells, you're hurting my ears.
Then a mist arose, and a glow, and out of the mist stepped the ghosts of Jacob Marley and his brother Robert. They stood before Scrooge, covered with heavy chains.
Clanking chains! Clanking chains scare the daylights out of me.
You can always leave, Rizzo.
No way.
What are these heavy chains? Scrooge asked the ghosts.
The chains! We forged these chains in life by our acts of greed.
The ghosts explained that they were doomed to walk the earth forever because they had been so mean. But they were going to try to help Scrooge avoid their awful fate. He would be haunted that night by 3 spirits, they told him. These were Robert Marley's last words to Scrooge.
Expect the first ghost tonight when the bell tolls 1.
Well, this is really scary stuff. Hey, should we be worried about the kids that are listening to this?
Don't worry. It's culture.
Okay.
Exhausted by his encounter with the 2 ghosts, Scrooge fell immediately into bed. He slipped into the empty silence of a dreamless sleep until 1 o'clock.
Expect the first ghost when the bell tolls 1.
You got it. At first, Scrooge could only see a bright white light. Then, as his eyes became accustomed to the brilliance, he began to make out the small figure of a child, a girl about 7 or 8 years of age. But this was no earthly girl. The child floated through the air toward him, her gown rippling all about her. She spoke to Scrooge in a tiny voice.
I'm the ghost of Christmas past.
What business has brought you here? Scrooge asked her.
Your welfare.
The ghost took Scrooge by the arm, and the windows of his room flew open.
Come.
I beg your spirit, I'm mortal, liable to fall.
A touch of my hand and you shall fly.
And fly they did, out the window and into the night. Far below, on the horizon, Scrooge could see a bright light. What is that light? He asked her.
It is the past.
Ooh, heavy duty.
When they touched down at last, where should Scrooge find himself but in his own past, at the school he had attended when he was just a boy? He stood in the schoolyard and looked at his schoolmates, boys who had been his friends. But when he tried to greet them, they did not respond. The spirit explained, "They can neither see nor hear you." And who should Scrooge see next, sitting all alone at a desk while the others played in the yard, but himself as a boy? He saw what a solitary young fellow he'd been, never even allowed to go home for Christmas as the other boys did. He looked lonely and alone, as if he didn't have a single friend in the world.
Oh, gee, I feel kind of bad for him now, all alone like that. Poor old Scrooge. Maybe I should take back all those bad things I said about him. Nah.
The next thing Scrooge knew, the ghost had whisked him away from the schoolyard and set him in the middle of a rollicking party. And there Scrooge saw himself again, now as a young man, out in the world of work. This was the Christmas party of his first employer, the jolly Fezziwig.
Hey, they had a great band at that party. Kind of a loud drummer, though.
Oh, everybody's a critic.
All right.
Even then, at that happy moment, however, the young Scrooge was having no fun. He was pinching pennies, worrying about how much the party was costing. And then Scrooge saw Belle, the beautiful young girl he had met at that very party. He had once planned to marry her, but a life of happiness with Belle was not to be. Scrooge had thrown it all away, for he did not know how to love. All this the ghost showed him.
Aww.
Scrooge was sad to behold these things. He had seen enough of his loveless past. "Leave me, spirit," he cried.
Oh, this is sad.
I know. Here, you can use my handkerchief.
Oh, thank you.
Yuck. Scrooge awoke in his own bedroom. He stumbled to his bed, but he could not sleep. He sat there looking into the darkness until... whoosh!
Whoosh? What's this with the whoosh thing?
Whoosh! It's the sound of the fire lighting up all by itself in the fireplace.
Oh.
You see, you have to imagine, Rizzo. Use your imagination. I told you before, this is not a movie.
Okay, all right. I'll use my imagination.
Okay, fine.
Whoosh.
So, anyhow, whoosh! The fire lit up in the sitting room fireplace. And then, in the bedroom doorway, a face appeared. The face of a huge, jolly giant. Scrooge got out of the bed and went into the sitting room. But the room had been completely changed. An enormous fire roared in the grate, and the walls and ceiling were hung with holly, mistletoe, and ivy. "Who are you?" Scrooge asked the jolly giant. And the giant replied,
I am the ghost of Christmas present.
Oh, my favorite part of Christmas, presents. So what did the ghost of Christmas presents give him? A nice sweater? Or maybe a pair of bunny slippers? Oh, some Roquefort cheese, maybe.
Rizzo! Wait a second!
What?
It's the ghost of Christmas present. Not the past, not the future, the present. Get it?
Oh, I get it. Bummer.
Now, this ghost was altogether different from the first. He was jolly and friendly. He laughed as he spoke.
Have you ever noticed that everything seems wonderful at Christmas?
In all honesty, Spirit, no. Perhaps I've never understood about Christmas.
The ghost spoke again.
Before this day is done, you will understand.
And with no further ado, the ghost took Scrooge outside. And amazingly, outside on the street, it was Christmas morning, bright and sunny.
Okay, I'm using my imagination. I'm hearing a basketball game.
Huh?
And the cheerleaders are all playing the spoons.
What?
No. Maybe it's a great big clock factory, and everyone's on lunch break, and they're all eating peanut butter and celery sandwiches.
No, Rizzo, forget your imagination. I'm just going to tell this to you, okay?
All right.
It's Christmas morning in merry old England. There are carriage horses with bells on, children shouting with joy, people carrying stacks of presents to their friends and families, church bells ringing.
Excuse me, Mr. Dickens.
What?
Is this story going to go on a lot longer? I have to,
What?
I have
What?
I have to go to the bathroom.
You'll just have to wait until the story ends, Rizzo.
But
we can't all wait for you to go to the bathroom.
Boy, are you strict.
Well, Charles Dickens does not fool around.
Right.
The ghost of Christmas present led Scrooge down a quiet lane in a shabby but tidy section of the city. "Why have we come to this odd corner of town?" Scrooge asked the ghost.
It's Christmas here, too, you know. That's Bob Cratchit's house.
Now, Scrooge paid his employees as little as possible, and Cratchit's home was quite humble indeed. But it was full of love. On this special day, Bob's wife Emily was cooking a roast goose. A very, very small goose, but a goose just the same. Bob was out just then at church with his son, Tiny Tim. As Scrooge watched unseen, Bob entered the house with Tim on his shoulders.
Merry Christmas, Emily.
Oh, Merry Christmas, Cratchit.
Emmy.
Tiny Tim's health was very delicate. He walked with difficulty on little crutches. But his nature was so sweet, everyone who knew him loved him.
I already love him.
Well, when the Cratchit family sat down to their meager little feast, Scrooge understood for the first time how much more important is love than money. He saw how lonely and impoverished his own life was, and how little joy all his money-counting and money-saving had brought him. And when dinner was over, Tiny Tim said the sweetest thing Scrooge had ever heard.
God bless us, everyone.
But the excitement of Christmas dinner was too much for Tiny Tim, and he began coughing. Scrooge had a sudden, terrible feeling about the future. The little boy seemed so frail, that young life so easily snuffed out. Unseen, Scrooge bent over close to the boy.
Spirit, tell me if Tiny Tim will live.
The ghost was not jolly then.
That is the future. My realm is the present. However, I see a vacant seat by the chimney corner, and a crutch without an owner. If these shadows remain unaltered, I believe the child will die.
Oh, this is too much for a sensitive rat to bear. Could I have your hanky?
Oh, sure, Rizzo. Here, keep it. Scrooge was desolate, but his visit with the ghost of Christmas Present was about to come to an end. As the Cratchit family began to fade into the darkness, Scrooge found himself in a black void with the ghost. The spirit spoke.
Come, my time grows short.
Now? But Spirit, I have learned so much from you.
That's 6, 7.
Oh, Spirit, do not leave me.
I think I must, in fact.
You have meant so much to me. You have changed me.
With that, the ghost was gone.
Wait a second. What about Tiny Tim?
Huh?
You're not going to just leave us like that, are you? A vacant seat by the chimney corner? A crutch without an owner? I can't stand it. You gotta tell me what happens, please.
Now, Rizzo, please, you must be patient.
Oh.
A great storyteller has to take his time. I mean, this is art.
Art? Oh, come on. Just tell me what happened, please.
All in good time, Rizzo, all in good time. So, as I was saying, Scrooge heard the last bell toll.
Oh.
He looked around him and found that he was standing in a graveyard.
Oh.
It was a lonely place, choked with grass and weeds.
Ooh.
Scrooge turned to run.
Oh, me too. Let me out of here.
But suddenly, he was face to face with a tall, hooded figure.
Oh.
It wore a gray robe,
Oh,
which
boy.
totally hid the figure within, except for 2 pale, skinny hands
Hands?
that protruded from the sleeves.
Oh.
Scrooge cried out, but then suddenly composed himself.
Am I in the presence of the ghost of Christmas yet to come?
The spirit stood silent, and then inclined its head in a single nod.
This is too scary. I don't want to hear any more.
Okay, you can leave. Come back at the end.
Do I get to find out about Tiny Tim?
Yes, you get to find out about Tiny Tim.
Okay, all right. I'm out of here. So long.
Bye. The ghost put a hand on Scrooge's shoulder and pointed into the distance. Scrooge knew he was meant to follow the spirit, though he was terribly fearful. He had learned much from his first 2 spirit visitors, and was ready now to learn what this last spirit had to teach. They moved through the graveyard and into the darkness. When the light returned, Scrooge found himself on the street. It was raining. Standing under umbrellas was a group of businessmen talking among themselves. It was clear that they were talking about someone who had just died. But far from being sad, they were laughing and joking about it. Scrooge was shocked. Whose death would cause so little emotion in people? But of course, he could get no word of explanation from the spirit who guided him now. The spirit led him next to a rag picker's establishment. People were bringing in things to sell. They were the possessions of the dead man. Collar buttons, bed curtains, blankets. But no one had even a single tear to shed. Scrooge was crushed. He pleaded with the ghost.
Let me see some tenderness connected with this work.
Without a word, the spirit pointed again, and Scrooge found himself on some familiar front steps. It was Bob Cratchit's house. Scrooge was happy to be in this warm and joyous place. But something was wrong as wrong can be. It was strangely quiet inside, and strangely empty. A little pair of crutches stood in the corner. Emily Cratchit was crying.
Not Tiny Tim.
But Tiny Tim it was. Scrooge's worst fears were confirmed when Bob Cratchit walked heavily into the house.
I picked a spot for Tim where he can see. It's a spot on the hill. And you can see the ducks on the river. Tiny Tim
Tiny Tim always loved watching the ducks on the river.
Tiny Tim, Scrooge was overcome with grief. How could this be? How could that sweet little boy have died? The room darkened, and suddenly Scrooge found himself outside again, in the dark, terrible graveyard. Scrooge turned to the ghost.
Spirit, I know what I must ask. I fear to, but I must. Who was the wretched man whose death brought so much glee and happiness to others?
The spirit stretched out a thin, white hand and pointed to the gravestone.
Excuse me, Gonzo, is the scary part over? Can I come back now?
I wouldn't recommend it.
Right.
Okay, now, where were we? Oh, yeah, right. Scrooge was talking.
Answer me one more question. Are these the shadows of things that will be, or are they the shadows of things that may be only?
The ghost just pointed again. Scrooge bent down and gazed at the writing on it. It said, Ebenezer Scrooge. Scrooge fell to his knees and clutched at the spirit's robe.
Oh, please, Spirit, no. Hear me, I'm not the man I was. Why would you show me this if I was past all hope? I will honor Christmas and try to keep it all the year. I will live my life in the past, the present, and the future. I will not shut out the lessons the spirits have taught me. Tell me that I may sponge out the writing on this stone. Oh, Spirit, please speak to me.
Scrooge clutched at the spirit's robe, but suddenly he realized that the spirit was no longer inside. The heavy robes fell onto Scrooge's head, almost smothering him. And then, all at once, they seemed to get lighter, as soft as bed sheets. They were bed sheets. Scrooge was in his very own bed, the bright morning sun streaming into the room. Oh, excuse me a moment. Rizzo! Rizzo! You can come back now, it's safe.
Is it really safe? No more ghosts and stuff?
No more ghosts, I promise.
And what about Tiny Tim?
Hold on, I'm not up to that yet.
Oh, all right.
Scrooge was alive. He was in his own house. And best of all, his life lay before him, and it could be changed. He danced around his room.
I don't know what to do. I'm as light as a feather. I'm as happy as an angel. I'm as merry as a schoolboy.
Scrooge threw open his window, and there was the same young fellow he had seen caroling outside his window just a few short hours before.
Looked out on a piece of steven.
Scrooge called out to the boy. What day is it, he asked.
Today? Well, today is Christmas Day.
It's Christmas Day. I haven't missed it.
Scrooge was overjoyed. He threw a bag of coins down to the boy and bade him go to the poultry shop and buy the prize turkey they had there. I'll give you 5 shillings if you hurry, he said. Well, that young fellow hurried as he had never hurried before, and was back with the turkey in the twinkling of an eye. As soon as he had the turkey, Scrooge hurried to Bob Cratchit's house with it. The curious townspeople followed. Everyone hid as Scrooge knocked on the Cratchit's door. Needless to say, the Cratchits were surprised to see the terrible Mr. Scrooge at their doorstep. Scrooge pretended to be angry with Bob.
Bob Cratchit?
So here you are.
Mr. Scrooge.
You, sir, were not at work this morning as we had discussed.
But Mr. Scrooge, sir, we did discuss it. It's Christmas Day. You gave me the day off.
I, Ebenezer Scrooge? Would I do a thing like that?
No, I mean, yes, but you did.
Bob Cratchit, I've had my fill of this.
And I have had my fill of you, Mr. Scrooge.
And therefore, Bob Cratchit.
And therefore, you can leave this house at once.
And therefore, I'm about to raise your salary.
Oh, and I am about to raise you right off the pavement onto...
Pardon?
Yes, Bob. Raise your salary and pay your mortgage on this house.
Please, sir, come inside. Yes, yes.
Bob Cratchit, would you and your family care to join us for a little turkey dinner
on this fine Christmas day. Merry Christmas.
The Cratchits could not believe their good fortune. And what a Christmas feast they all had then. Roast goose, turkey, plum pudding. Yes, Rizzo?
And what about Tiny Tim?
Oh, and to Tiny Tim, who did not die.
Aw, isn't that great? Nice story, Mr. Dickens.
But wait, it's not finished.
Oh.
And to Tiny Tim, Scrooge became a second father. He became as good a friend, as good a master, and as good a man as the good old city ever had. From then on, it was always said of Scrooge that he knew how to keep Christmas well. May that be truly said of us and all of us. And so, as Tiny Tim observed,
God bless us.
God bless us, everyone.
That's Scrooge. What a guy. Nice story, Mr. Dickens. Very nice indeed.
Oh, thanks, Rizzo.
Okay, is everybody ready to sing?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll start. It's in the singing of a street corner choir. It's going home and getting warm by the fire. It's true wherever you find love, it feels like Christmas.
A cup of kindness that we share with another. A sweet reunion with a friend or a brother.
In all the places you find love, it feels like Christmas.
Okay, Fozzie.
Here's the season of the heart, a special time of caring, the ways of love made clear.
Everybody.
And it is the season of the Spirit. The message, if we hear it, is make it last all year.
Ready, Bunsen?
Oh, goodness. Well, I'll try. Beaker? It's in the giving of a gift to another. A pair of mittens that were made by your mother.
It's all the ways that we show love that feel like Christmas.
A part of childhood we'll always remember. It is the summer of the soul in December.
Yes, when you do your best for love,
It feels like Christmas.
It is the season of the heart, a special time of caring, the ways of love made clear. It is the season of the Spirit, the message if we hear it, is make it last all year.
That was great, everybody.
Hermit, you sing please, just to me.
It's in the singing of a street corner choir. It's going home and getting warm by the fire.
It's true wherever you find love, it feels like Christmas.
It's true wherever you find love. It feels like Christmas.
It feels like Christmas. It feels like Christmas.
It feels like Christmas. Merry Christmas, Piggy.
Merry Christmas, Drew.
Merry Christmas, Rizzo.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, Beaker.
Is this the end?
Yep, that's it. Bye-bye, everybody. If you want to listen to the story again, just turn the tape over.
Hey, psst, listen, everybody, you want to know a secret? He's really gonzo. He's not Charles Dickens.
I am too.
Are not.
Am too.
Are not.
Am too.
Are not. Are not. Are not. Are not. Are not. You are Charles Dickens.
I am not Charles Dickens.
All right, have it your way.
Wait a minute, Rizzo. Hey, you come back here. Rizzo, I am Charles Dickens. Well, I'll have you know, you dirty rat. Rizzo. Oh, Rizzo, come back here.